2, 1.
Right. It always tricks me because I'm watching this little bar going across and it's saying setting up meeting, but it's actually live right now. And welcome to paraglidingtalk.com. I'm your host, Robert Michaels. So glad that you're here. You found the best place to talk about paragliding on the interwebs on Thursday nights. So glad you're here. If you're just logging in, welcome. If you're in the chat, make sure you chat it up because your name's going into a hat and you have the potential to win something nice. We don't know what we're giving away yet, but we're going to give away something on the show. And we've got all kinds of good stuff lined up for tonight's show. We're going to talk about all things flying. Paraglidingtalk.com. So I got a thumbs down already. What's going on around here?
I could have sworn I heard a tuba in the background there for a minute.
I got 2 thumbs up and 1 thumbs down. Oh, 3 thumbs up. Thank you, whoever that was, to balance that.
YouTube's slow on the notification. I'm not in yet.
Oh, yeah. Well, you guys are here, and I'm glad. And we're getting this show rolling. There's a little bit of a change of plans. We were going to have Brad Ganuscio 2.0. However, he had a little incident with his neck, not paragliding involved, construction involved, and he's not feeling well. And so he's going to come on another episode later on. Tonight, I invited Kyle O'Glee, and we're going to talk a little bit about some safety. And I've got a couple topics that I wanted to ping off of him, and we're going to talk about paramotoring and free flight paragliding tonight. This show is brought to you by Nebraska PPG. Josh Bowden runs a school there in Nebraska. If you're interested in getting involved and getting your feet off the ground and you're in the Nebraska area, it'd be a great idea to reach out to him. There's some links in the chat if you want to get connected with him. And
am I here?
Got a great school. Yeah, you're here.
Did I do it? I win the internet again.
Everything but video.
There too. Hold on, I'm even at a laptop, guys. I don't know. Can you? Oh, you can't see me.
Yep, can't see you, but we can hear you.
Oh shit! Never mind. All that bragging. That's what I get for bragging. I totally stuck. Let's see. There's got to be a button you push somewhere. Perhaps there.
There you go.
There you go.
Sorry, I was making a video, guys. I had to do a screen recording of the GPS data from yesterday's flight, and it just has to play as you record it. You can't really do it fast or anything. So that's why I'm late. Sorry.
Well, I'm
I feel
glad
like a
you made
kid
it.
giving an excuse to the principal. Like, man, like the car would start. I was with Mark again. That boy, dang. Ain't my fault. Ain't my fault.
Big trouble. This show is also brought to you by Resurgence PPG. Todd Scandrick created an organization, 501c3, for helping our veterans. And, sometimes it's to help them deal with PTSD. Sometimes it's, guys that are wounded and they think, they can never fly or do anything extra in life. And this paramotoring and free flight paragliding, he's made a way for these guys to get sponsored and fly. And it's a great organization. I did want to just throw this in there. There's a way that you can actually support Resurgence PPG by selecting Resurgence as your Amazon donation deal. When you buy stuff from Amazon.com, you can select an organization, 501c3, and he's registered on there. And so all kinds of good things coming from that. Check out, I don't know where to search, just Google it, you'll figure it out, but you can choose Resurgence PPG as your donation person. If you can't afford to give, but you're still buying stuff, a portion of what you buy from Amazon will go to Resurgence PPG. And I thought that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, right. So, hey, just real quick, it's it'll be smile.amazon, I believe, through that link. It's kind of cool. It's pennies when it comes to everybody's purchases and so forth. And I guess it's donated through Amazon. It's not coming out of you and so forth.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
And they get I think I just saw a latest report. Maybe he got like $300 or $350 or something last month. But yeah, $150 he didn't have before. So
the quarterly amount was $184.35. for last quarter and to date since Resurgence has been on smile.amazon, it's $360.46.
Nice. If you guys can find a link that would make it easier for people to get to that, just either drop it in the chat or send it to me in this, and I'll put it in a link in the description. Show's also brought to you by Fly My PPG, Mike Cotter. He has a school there in Michigan, hometown Michigan. If you're anywhere in the Michigan area and you are interested in powered paragliding, you can reach out to Mike Cotter at flymyppg.com. That's flymyppg.com. It's got a great website, really clean. Go check it out if you haven't looked at it. Even if you're not planning on going to school, there's all kinds of cool stuff on his website. The show is also brought to you by paraorangeproducts.com. Paraorange Products. Larry and Chris have a great organization making all kinds of cool stuff. Go check out their website. And they're always giving stuff away on this show, and they support the community a lot. Go check them out and support them if you want to buy stuff to protect your gear. And if you want to buy gear and wings, you can even do that through paraorangeproducts.com. Show is also brought to you by Tri-State Skywalkers. If you're in the Indiana, Kentucky, or Ohio area, you can reach out to Brandon McCloud on Facebook. Tri-State Skywalkers Flying Club aims to help the flying community fly safer and build community and keep sites open and preserve what we have in the sport. And so reach out to Brandon if you're interested in starting a club, or if you're in the area and you want to join the club. There's a link in the description. Show is also brought to you by ppgsmoke.com. Each week we're giving away some kind of thing from PPG Smoke. It originally started off with just smoke machines. Ryan Roberts is making all kinds of leaps and bounds for our sport, and paramotoring and free flight. And so there's a contest. If you want to join the contest, it's not too late. We're still giving away, I don't know how many, maybe like 10, 15 more items. But these are high value items. Basically, when he donated these to the show, it was like $10,000 worth of gear. So we're giving away one every episode, and the contest rules is on paraglidingtalk.com/contest. Fill out the application, and you too can win. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Show is also brought to you by iFly Indiana Powered Paragliding. If you're interested in flying paramotors, no better place to get the proper training than iflyindiana.com. Kevin and his team will get your feet off the ground, and you can check them out at iflyindiana.com. I saw some people went through the school recently, and I saw their some of their success stories. Pretty cool. Kevin and his group there in Indiana got a good thing going. Go check them out. iflyindiana.com. All the links for these are in the description. If you would like to support the show on Patreon or PayPal, there's links to do that. I want to encourage you to do that for the price of a cup of coffee. You can learn something that might save your life or save broken limbs or trip to the hospital or something like that. Or you might just be investing. Maybe you don't have time to watch every show and you can't be involved, but you want to invest in the sport and you're thinking, I don't know what I can do to help the sport. But this is what you can do. You give to this show, and we're going to promote safety. We're going to promote advancing this good thing on the earth, and paramotor, free flight, whatever it is, you can support that on Patreon or PayPal. Links in the description. Kylo, thank you so much for joining us tonight. You're also joined tonight by Craig Taylor, Anthony D. Paragringo, and our friend Sean, who takes care of all the moderation needs of the show. Thank you guys for coming on tonight. And there is a little change of plans. We're going to have somebody, Brad Ganuccio, but he's going to have to come on a later show. I have two things that I wanted to talk about. And again, thank you, Kyle, for literally last second.
Yes, for the moment, man. I was sitting here finishing up some video editing I had going, and while it was fresh on my mind.
Last second. Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed, by the way, to Kyle O, I don't know where you've been, but you need to go and check out his channel and make sure you subscribe. I'll make sure that there's a link in the description so you can connect to his channel if you haven't already. Kyle, you've been teaching some people, and I've watched your last video, and I like your teaching style.
Yeah. You know, it's constantly evolving. We make the changes we need to, and depending on who's doing what as well. And I tailor each pilot's lessons to what they need. So I gave her what she needed. She was flying. So we're all happy.
Yeah,
Sarah did well. And it's weird. That video was just some bits and pieces. She was here for 2 weeks. We were training near daily. So it was odd kind of putting it together all right on top of each other. I was like, man, that seemed fast.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's
it was
nice.
it was beautiful. Yeah. Watching anybody learn to fly is beautiful. So pretty good stuff. She did well.
What do you think the amount of time really should be? You think 2 weeks is enough?
It's different. It's different for everybody. Yeah. Some people can kite. I had 2 guys show up and they were just doing like 1 day of lessons and they wanted to touch it and feel it. But they were kiteboarder guys, like world champion kiteboarder guys. And both of these dudes could kite like instantly. They were like, I was like, you guys are ready to fly. And I had a cousin that did that recently too. He showed up and he was like, man, can I kite? And I was like, yeah, man. He's been helping me tow people for 5 years now. He's seen this like every summer for 5 years. He's been my tow guy, right? He's my operator, retriever. When we were doing lessons, he was towing my students. And he's in college now. So he came back and I was like, yeah, man, strap up. And the dude was kiting. Like he could do it forward, reverse his first try. And he stood there out there in thermal winds and kited until he's like, so can I put it down now? I was like, yeah, man. I was like, you want to tow? He's like, what? I said, yeah, I mean, you're ready. That's what I'm looking for. And of course I wouldn't do that with anybody, but he's been around it so many hundreds, if not thousands of times at this point that
I'm surprised he hasn't got the bug.
And he did a beautiful first flight. He was like, man, that was different, I thought. And he's an aviation major too. So he's flying all the time.
Oh,
so
wow.
I knew it was nothing to worry about with him, like freaking out or something, but just a new craft for him. It's kind of like when I stepped into it, I was already a pilot. So flying wasn't really the difficult part. I figured that out pretty quick. It's all the ground stuff, the kiting, the launching, the landing, the
muscle memory.
Yeah. A lot of it or simple stuff. Where do you lay out? What is the field doing? What are the conditions doing? I mean, we look at everything. So I try to just share it as it happens, seeing what's what. Speaking of conditions, man, I went out in some wild stuff yesterday. Did you hear about that?
No, please tell.
Yeah, I flew into a dust devil, man. Whack. It was a little one. It was a little. Nope. It was dust devil. Yeah, I flew into it before it was on the ground, and it whacked my wing. It folded half my Xeno, which it opened right back up. No biggie. But I was about 500 feet, and I was pushing into the wind. I was trying to get back to where I started. I'd done it like a little thermal cross country, just back and forth and wandering around the valley. I wasn't really trying to make distance or anything. Just, I made a couple of downwind runs and topped out, but then I would push back and I would get drilled hard. I got drilled once and salvaged it. And then the next one the stuff I caught, I was just reviewing the video. I did 4 turns at like 50 feet and I couldn't go up. And so I said, screw this, man. I was running out of room behind me. So I landed in a spot that I could take back off from. And then I started the motor, but it was the ride back that was difficult as far as you got a strong headwind and then there was dust devils kicking up. It was the middle of the day and I had to meet a student. So that was my other reason. I had to get back and I didn't feel like hitchhiking. I had a paramotor with gas in it. So shoot, yeah, let's push. And so we pushed for about an hour. I made 6 miles in about an hour.
Oh my!
But right
word.
at the end of it, I flew into a dusty, man. I didn't know that's what it was until after I hit it, and I got rocked, and I pulled the wing back open, and it was just a bump, really, and it didn't freak me out. But then I saw the tail hit the ground, and it just swirled up. I saw the dust come up, and I thought, oh, I don't need to get in that. But it was way out in front of me, but of course, strong wind means they're leaning way over. And as I exited, I could see the dirt go right by where I was at. So I knew that I just hit that dust devil, and like, man, that's wild. And so I flew on around it and landed. It was really a non-event, but it was exciting nonetheless. So
wild, 500
yep.
feet. So
yep.
I actually want to talk about that. There's two things that I want to talk about. One is brake pressure, and 2 is the danger zone. And these are controversial topics, so you're going to have to take this with a grain of salt. What we're talking about tonight.
No. I know the formula, man.
yeah, these are critical things. And and the one thing we've had some kind of a dreary season. This last year has really opened my eyes. A lot of people hit the dirt, and a lot of people didn't survive this year. A lot of people had major accidents, and these are people who are incredibly talented pilots. Some of our local, and these are the best of the best, and they're wearing the clamshell right now.
Now, hey, when I tell you 500 feet, Robert, we're talking about open farmland, flat as a pancake, no trees, a few lines.
Right.
It's just plowed dirt and dust right now. Right. 500 feet there is not 500 feet at Blossom on a crazy day.
Yeah.
So, that's something else to consider as well.
Yeah. Well, so when we're talking about the danger zone, and I'm specifically talking about paramotoring, and this is, I'm not the best paramotor guy, but I have a good understanding about this altitude thing. We have a problem with, we're flying low and slow, and we talk about, I love how it's low and slow and just doing what we do. And I haven't really experienced that too much, except for Torrey Pines when I'm, butt dragging across launch, just playing around with speed bar or whatever. But low and slow on a paramotor, you might be flying at 3,000 feet 1 minute, and then you come all the way down. And I'm kind of paraphrasing from something I heard Woody Gamertag talking about. He was talking about that danger zone, and the danger zone.
You gotta have your margin, man. I call it the margins. It's always margins, whether you're mountain motoring or airplanes or helicopters. You've got to have your safety margins depending on what's going on and where you're at. That's the difference, is what's going on. If it's dead calm and you got wide open fields, you can go from $3,000 to 0 and drag your feet all the way home.
Right.
But you can't do that over rocks or trees or water. You got to give yourself room to get away from that stuff over to the grass. So that's how high you fly or how low you fly. And if it's bumpy, like yesterday, at full power, I was getting drilled 200 feet a minute down, and that's at full power on the paramotor. So I had to give myself at least 500 feet just to, get out of something like that. If I was at 100 feet and got drilled like that, I might hit in the dirt or land before, landing at full power at 200 feet a minute down is not a hard landing, but say I got off the power, that's 1,000 feet down, So those are things you got to take into account on any day. I didn't want to be anywhere near the ground yesterday. That was most of the day was spent at like 2,000 to 4,000 feet.
Yeah.
So that's plenty of room, dual reserves. Had a paramotor. It was off most of the flight, but when I dirted out, I cranked it up and went home with it. So cold I couldn't restart it. I needed to prime it again. So it was a fun day. But I mean, I've done this before. This is not a unusual thing. I do a lot of thermal flying with the paramotor, and that's how you get back. You got to push back into the wind usually. And,
I noticed,
it was a good day though. It was a good day. I mean, it was a weird event hitting a dust devil like that and taking a fold, but that's just part of the game we play. Had I seen it before I got there, I would have dodged it, but I hit it before it got all the way to the ground.
Did it shoot out?
Up down there anyway.
Your wings shoot out in front of you?
No, it folded. I took an asymmetric on the left. It hit the side of it. And no, I stayed level, man. I was, I've been out there for 2 hours at that point. I was rodeo riding the game. I know how to fly in thermals.
Right.
But it's
that's something about
I leaned into it, banged the brake, it popped out. It was over in a second, but that's usually how they are. They're quick if you're on your game. It's when you don't have the controls and that happens. That's where you get into trouble, when it shoots and you can't stop it.
Yeah.
That's where people get folded up or twisted around.
That's a good point. I was thinking about talking about this before, and this is mainly for free flight. When we go, you ever notice at the end of your flight? Yeah, think of this for a second. When we showed up, like you came and we flew Blossom, you show up to Blossom, and when you get to the site, you're launching into normally the prime of that flying day. Like, that it's too rowdy at 12 o'clock. So you're not going to fly at 12 o'clock, but you might show up and say, I'm going to be there at 3 to be ready to launch in case it might be good at 3:30 or 4. And
Yeah.
what they say to the locals, and if you're watching this and you're local, don't launch before 5 o'clock during the summer. And then make sure that you're talking to the locals before you show up. We had a couple guys show up and they were already in the air, and it was like 3:30, and all the locals were like, who is that guy? He is brave. And, you know, taking collapses and scare themselves off of the hill. But I was thinking about this. When we come, it's prime time. We launch into the prime air, and then we adjust, and you're always adjusting down to the relaxation of glass off, right? No other sport is like that. You normally come into it, you know, and it's either a steady, you know, you're going to mountain bike and you're just going to hit the hill, and you don't start off on the biggest jump. You work your way up to the jump, you know, the big jump. And everything, same the skate park. I go to the skate park. You never go straight for the biggest ramp. You take it easy and you start off, you know, warm up. But in our sport, it's a little bit different. You got to think about it.
Yeah. If you're new, you don't want to be out there much past 11, you know, and even then you're better hitting the tail end of the day because you can land in the calm air.
Right.
Versus going in the morning where it's getting stronger. And so it may get to the point where you're like, wow, this is too much, but the next 5 minutes are only going to be more. So when, you know, you got to gauge it more differently. There's my Louisiana coming out of me. You got to gauge it more differently in the morning than you do the evening. Evening, you can pick the strength you want, and it'll go down from there, generally speaking. So those are, when I was learning, I remember, you know, how far I wanted to step into it. And I was mountain flying at the same time that I was learning the paramotor. So that plays a big part into the kind of air that, you know, somebody that has that experience can tackle. You know, yesterday was for nobody, but, you know, the most seasoned athletes. It was a rodeo there the whole time. It was broken. It was strong. And, you know, it's just, you just wanted to be high. It was great above like 25. It was, or two, maybe 2 to 3, 38. I believe I topped out around 38, and it was great there. But anywhere below that was just a mess, dude. And the lower you go, the messier it is. Now those Dust Devils, I've been in 3 of them before. They're not bad high. They're just big thermals. You punch in them, you climb them. But, you know, down low is where they get all twisty and they'll wrap you up and sling you around. And it goes right back to just the most basic of basic fundamentals. It's dangerous to be low. You got it. The higher you go, the better you are, the safer you are. That's any time, day or night. It's or night, evenings or midday. So you just got to fly like that. You got to know that it's dangerous low, and you can't make a mistake low. You get no bakeovers. You make a mistake high at 500,000, 2,000 feet, and you get a do-over. But you don't get that at 50. You know, at 50 you get bit. Yeah. So that's the difference. That's the difference.
Yeah. That danger zone. And I noticed Tucker, he'll, you know how bumpy it is by what altitude he's flying around. And that last video, he said in the beginning, it was kind of bumpy. And then you notice he never went below probably about 500 or 600 feet the whole time. He just stayed there. And then when he was done, he went and landed, and that was it. And
he's in a hilly area too. So if they get wind, they get turbulence. So I imagine his decision has a lot to, I don't know if he midday flies or not. He flies in strong wind. He's obviously a skilled pilot. I don't know that I've ever seen him thermaling or anything.
Yeah, he's had a couple days where he's had some sketchy flights, but for the most part, they're different sports, man. If you're just a motor guy and not a thermal mountain free flight pilot, you don't get a lot of what's going on with the air. It's a study of the air that I enjoy, you know, where it's moving, how it's moving. Right. You know, the anatomy of a dust devil. I went in one at 4,000 feet over Texas, and it was just like a big thermal. It wasn't even a scary entry or anything. There were corn leaves everywhere. They got tangled up in my lines. It was pretty amazing. But it was just all of a sudden there were millions of corn leaves. And I went in some good lift and climbed it all the way up to about 6, I think. And it was, I had leaves. I had like 30 leaves tangled up in my lines. It was pretty neat. Wow. So, yeah. But this is the lowest I've ever hit one. And I didn't even go in it. I just hit the edge of it. And it smacked my wing down. So, you know, it was what it was. Then when I realized that I was already, you know, away from it at that point, so I couldn't really get nervous in the moment. In the moment, you're just flying your wing and keeping that thing open. And,
500 feet is like 0 altitude left. You got time to throw, and that's about it.
Yeah.
So, I've always got that in my mind too. I've got my hammer cocked. I know where the handles are. I know I've got 0 time. If I don't catch it on that first try and it twists on me, you got to get the laundry out immediately. So
yeah, speaking of laundry, there was a certain person in the industry that said that they didn't think it was necessary to have a reserve. I want to just tell you something. You need a reserve. If you're flying with the dang tablecloth, you need another tablecloth. There's things happen, man. And I have to say,
it's a requirement for midday flying. I won't fly without one. In
no
thermals.
doubt.
It's a bad decision.
But,
and most of the time too, I've got 2 in my free flight harness, and now I've got 2 on the paramotor. That was one of yesterday's missions, was to set it up with dual reserves.
Oh, nice.
And so I made a short little video about how to install the second reserve, and then went out and flew it. So it was pretty fun.
What are you using for reserves?
I got a 140 square and a 140 round on this right now. I've got a bunch of reserves. I've got 8 or 9 reserves at different places, but I've been buying them and selling them and using them and repacking them and all kind of stuff. But it's yeah, I was hoping I didn't get to use one yesterday, but I was ready. If I needed to, I was ready. I'm always ready. You can't be scared of it. Like I said, it's plowed farmland down there. You'll puff in probably. I'll probably hit the one line or the one creek or the one tree in the whole river valley, but I'm kind of treating it like acro pilots too. I'm looking at my box the whole time. If I'm low, I'm looking at where am I going to go? If I fold up or spin out or have to throw a reserve, what am I fitting to blow into? So yesterday I'm looking behind me the whole time, focusing on where I'm at and what's downwind of me, so that in that event I've got, you're just thinking ahead, man. When you're doing a flight like that, you've got to put yourself way ahead of where you're at, but you also have to fly the moment as well. You can't be behind. If you're behind, it'll get away from you, especially on a hot wing, super loaded up. But it was nice. That's the most weight I've had on that Zeno yet. I did it was a motor half full of fuel, 2 reserves, water, gear. Yeah, I was heavy. I don't even know what I weighed, but I was way over the top. And it was worth it, again, a dust devil caused like an itty bitty deflation. So had I been not loaded as much, who knows, it would have folded more.
Right.
But
yeah,
that's how you fly in big air is heavy.
It's an important part of
flight conditions. You go light, you start dumping ballast and taking stuff off.
Yep.
Do that too.
It's a different ball game when you start flying light. That's for sure. One of the questions just came up from Jim. He said, for us noobs, supposing it's the conditions we should be avoiding, what are they? Winds in excess of ? Gusts in excess of, other factors.
Man, that's up to the pilot. It's different. They're different for everybody, man. Yeah. There's somebody that can handle stuff like that without no problems at all. And some guys have to work hard to ease into conditions that are, it's important for you to know what your threshold is. Don't worry about what numbers anybody else says. That's not important. You go out there and fly in 8, gusting 9, see what that feels like. Then try 8 gusting 10, see what that feels like. Go up, check it out, see if you can handle it. If you're comfortable with it, then maybe 8 gusting 11 one day, give that a shot. But the gusts on the ground are usually just the thermal activity that's, like the world's breathing out there. You got air moving up and down and usually large columns, big bubbles. Sometimes it's broken up, sometimes it's not, but that's where the experience of what you're in, whether it's morning, evening, or midday, it's all happening. As soon as the sun pokes out, first light, you can see them happening in the fog. The fog starts lifting, dragonflies start soaring out there. They're the first things that soar. The dragonflies, they soar before anything else. And they also out later soaring. So that's pretty neat. But then the birds will all take off 9 to 10 usually. They'll start catching those early morning ones, and then it just picks up from there. They get stronger and stronger, and each day is a little different. Forecasting has a big part in, what the next day is going to look like. Cloud cover, temperatures, dew points, pressures, all that stuff comes into play as well. But when you look at what the air's doing and you understand what it's doing, and then you go see if you can fly in it, you see if you can fly in the lighter stuff, and you practice in the lighter stuff. And if you can handle it, it's the same moves in the stronger stuff, just more committing moves. And you may have to stay up longer or later. You know, what I did yesterday wasn't what I wanted to do. You know, I wanted to just stay high and just go with the wind and let it blow me, but I would have been hitchhiking home at that point. So,
Yeah.
you know, you got to look at each flight. The goal yesterday was to do just what I did. Thermal as far as I could, and then either crank it up and fly home or land crank it up and fly home. And it ended up being the latter. But, you know your flight plan, know your parameters. I knew what the air was doing. I checked it out. It's the reason I was there. And it's different for every pilot. You know, what I do doesn't need to be what the majority of people do. But I train and I practice, and you know, I've flown in big air every week for the last 6 weeks, I guess. You know, it's usually just an hour or two at the middle of the day from 1 to 3 when it's the strongest activity is when I like to go. And I do a practice session, and then I come back. And that's that was yesterday's session.
That's
Devils, so.
Free flight addiction. You're talking all that stuff, birds and thermals and looking at bugs. That's all free flight addiction.
Oh, I'm sick. I'm sick with it bad, man. It's a real issue, man. I hope they don't ever make medicine for that.
Yeah. It'll come through the shelf.
They try to give it to me. They would try to give me that medicine if they invented it. Yeah. Like this guy needs it more than anybody. But
hey, Sean,
man, I'm
let's give something away.
Yes, sounds good, because I've been taking everybody's name down, and this thing is stinking crazy. So
Chat's moving.
I know it's going nuts now. All right, here we go. So you guys can see the screen, right?
I can see it.
All right, here we go. What are we giving away, Robert?
We're gonna give it away. Give it away now. It's a paraglidingtalk.com t-shirt.
Nice.
Paraglidingtalk.com. You need it.
So
I think that's going to be the slogan. I'm going to make the shirt. You need it.
On the back. That's what it says.
Yeah.
Like, you need it on the back.
Yep.
Yeah. Here we go. She's rolling.
It's funny that my name's in there.
Joey Eggenberger.
Joey and Eggenberger. Congratulations. Winner chicken dinner. T-shirt. You are the winner.
Yeah.
Joey. Let me write this down. Joey, please reach out to me through the contact form on the website, paraglidingtalk.com. And send me your details, what size shirt you wear and where you live. What is
we had so many people. Oh, I don't know. EGGEN BERGER.
Got it. Boom.
Yeah, I got so many people's names. Some names are so long that when you swipe it into the wheel of plume, it
cuts it off.
You put other people in there and you can't see their name. So you don't know whether they're in there or not, but they are.
I like the guy's name. Never trust a skinny Chef Shane.
Yeah.
That's a great name.
Shane's got training coming up soon.
Oh, yeah?
It's going to Four Winds PPG, I believe, with
nice.
Lauren and Shannon Michiels.
Yeah. I'm trying to get them to come on the show. Yeah. Lauren and Shannon Michiels.
Who's getting training?
His name is Never Trust a Skinny Chef Shane.
Oh, okay. I got lost in the comments there for a second. Forgot who we were talking about.
It's like a sentence long name. Like it, just to write it out. I mean, you know, usually when I used the hat back in the day, a little piece of paper like this, writing all that on this little thing, it would take you like 30 people would be in the chat by the time you got that one name out. It's like,
enjoying the sun. 577. Yeah.
That was always
for a while, man. He's a champ.
That was a chore to write out. Let me tell you, it just got to the point where I was writing enjoying the sun because
he's won some stuff.
Yeah.
So tell me, you say the flying's been pretty lame out there in San Diego, Robert?
Oh, no, the flying's been pretty amazing, but I'm grounded.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew that was the answer.
Yeah, I've been grounded.
It's always amazing out there.
Actually, I need to get some drugs from you. Maybe you can help me.
Uh-oh.
I got.
Does it burn when you pee?
No.
Okay, that's good. That's a good thing.
I got an inner ear infection, and it's they think it's a viral deal, and they call it labyrinthitis. So
that's not fun one. I don't reckon it is.
Yeah, I don't know what to do.
That's inflammation of the labyrinth of the eardrum.
Yeah, I'm just walking around dizzy.
Yeah.
Can't fly.
I didn't know if it was sound sensitivity or inner ear stuff.
I'm deaf in the left ear. I mean, I can hear a little bit, but it sounds really weird. So I've already been to 2 doctors. I went to the ER first, and it was at the fly-in in Red Rocks, Utah, and that's where it hit me. And then I missed my flight home. When I got home, I finally went. I set up a meeting with the doctor, and then they're saying it could take up to 3 weeks. So I haven't been flying. I've just been taking it easy.
So the flying's been bad in San Diego.
Yeah.
For you?
For me, flying's been bad. But I've been getting
sorry to hear that.
Work done around the house. The lawn's done. Looks nice.
Yeah, you got to get well, man. You can't be flying unhealthy. That's there are priorities in the world.
Yeah. It's almost gone.
Flying's fun, but it's not at the very tip top.
Yeah, almost there. Yeah. Yep. So I did want to talk about something else too. And by the way, just quick shout for the sponsors. Thank you guys for supporting the show and what you guys do. Recently, I've had to do some changes with how everybody pays their advertising bill. And so I appreciate everybody jumping on board with that. I just went to this auto pay thing. So thank you guys. Really appreciate it. And by the way, if you're watching and you haven't checked out any of these websites, please go do that and say hi to them and support your local sponsor of the show. I wanted to talk about brake pressure. And this is a very important and a very delicate conversation. This is big boy talk. So if you're new pilot,
tell me what the issue is. I want to know.
Well, I want to talk from a free flight perspective first, and then we'll talk a little bit about how you can use brake pressure for your benefit and for your safety. So the first part of it is brake pressure. You're going to talk to people that are going to tell you, and instructors that are going to tell you different things about brake pressure and how much. I remember there's one guy, he would post videos, and his instructor actually literally put marks on his risers to show him how much brake pressure to be using. Okay. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. Hey, Jim, thanks for your contribution, by the way. When you're flying free flight, let me just bring this home. This is me. This is what I'm learning right now. You need to always have some constant brake pressure. And I know now some people are like, wait, what are you talking about?
Flying?
I'm talking about when you're flying and it requires active piloting. You should always have a little brake pressure. And so that's going to be different for everyone. The amount of brake
pressure.
Even
on bar, when you're gliding, you're not really doing pressure, but you're feeling the back of the wing,
right.
You're touching the risers or pulling on the sticks or whatever. And you can feel what the wing's telling you through your hands and your hips.
Absolutely. Now, so you just added a little complication to the whole thing. When you talk about adding speed bar, now that is the one time when you don't want to have brake pressure on.
But riser pressure, it's still pressure. It's still the same thing. You're feeling the wing, you're controlling it. But
now if you're flying, if you're using speed bar, it's because you've already kind of evolved in the and leveled up. You're probably in a B or a C class. When I was on my A, I didn't touch nothing speed bar. I didn't need to.
You never hit the bar on the A? Oh man.
I did, but I mean it was at Torrey. It was never like fast. I needed it. Yeah, it does. It does. And it doesn't go any faster, I don't think.
Not I think really. 3 miles an hour. Mine went 3 miles an hour faster on bar.
Maybe 1 mile an hour. But I didn't even have instrument to know if I was going fast or not. But when we talk about, and the reason why I bring this up, and we're going to have, this is going to be a conversation in a couple shows from now, probably. Next week, I won't be available for the show. So just to give you a heads up, there'll not be a show next Thursday night. I'm going to a funeral, not a paraglider pilot, thank God. But anyways, when we're talking about brake pressure, we're going to be talking about something that happened to Tony Boyer when we were at the Red Rocks, and he took a full collapse about 25 feet off the ground, and right on launch, and he hit the ground as hard as you can hit. I mean, I don't know if you're at terminal velocity at 25 feet, but you're hauling. Your body's being thrown to the ground really hard, and that almost ruined our trip. And thank God nothing happened to him. He's totally fine, but it was scary. And I've got it on film, and I'm going to be posting the video, and we're going to talk about it. I'm sure that everything is going to come out, and I want to have Tony on that show. And what the conversation that's just been stirring ever since that happened is brake pressure. And
did he have brake pressure or not enough, or how?
Well, and
because sometimes it doesn't matter what you do, and
yeah,
if it's big enough, it'll whack it right out of your hand.
So let's talk about it. What happens when you have brake pressure compared to when you don't have brake pressure, and things start to go haywire?
To the wing,
right? Yeah. It forces the wing open, holds it. It kind of, it turns it into, instead of something kind of mushy, into something a little more solid. Now, is it going to change it? Like you said, anything can happen. But
well, some of it's just jamming the brake hard and quick, just like when I had that deflation yesterday. I just slammed it until it busted open and then eased off, and I kept flying.
Right.
So sometimes it's just a hard jab to blow that tip back out. But
right.
it'll prevent a collapse. Brakes will prevent a collapse. You just got to jam them. Sometimes
and you'll feel it.
So much energy you can't jam them hard enough.
Right.
That may have been what happened, or maybe he was late. I don't know, but that's the reason that the wing will shoot and fold is not enough pressure on it.
Yeah. And that's another thing. So you've got two things that are going on. One, your wing might be, let's say you're coming out of a thermal and your wing wants to jump out in front of you. And there's something to taking the brakes and trying to bring it back to where it's overhead and not going too deep in the brakes, because you don't want to go into a parachutal type of thing. But we're talking about having a little bit of brake pressure all the time so that you're always connected to your glider. You're always knowing what your glider is going to be saying.
And that's important, because sometimes you want the glider to shoot. If it rocks back, you want to be able to dump that pressure and shoot the glider back over your head. If you've got your hands all the way up and the glider falls back, you can't make it go any faster. Right. But if you've got some brakes, then you can let it go back where it needs to be.
Yeah.
So there's a reason why you hold some pressure. That's perfect example.
Yeah.
It's how you control pitch when you're in bouncy air, is by adding some pressure. And when the glider rocks back, you throw your hands up so that it'll shoot back over you. If it shoots out in front of you, you jam them even harder. And sometimes, you're in the moment. You go in a thermal and the glider rocks back, you let it shoot and let it get real fast. And when you punch out the other side of it, you've got a lot of energy that you can slam down on it and keep it from deflating on you. So that's, you play the conditions. Sometimes you can just hold some pressure, punch in the thermal, let it up, add a little, jerk it out. But sometimes you want that speed so that gives you energy that you can jam.
Yeah,
that's how I fly. Yeah,
it's critical, and the reason why I say that is you get this image, and if you just watched YouTube videos and that's all you did, and you just watched people posting videos, hundreds of videos, hundreds of hours of people flying and no hands on the brakes, just flying along and just messing around and taking pictures and selfies and whatever. And there's a time for that, and you can relax and enjoy your flying. But then there's these accidents that are happening where I think that guys could have avoided some catastrophes had they just had a little bit of brake pressure the whole time. And the other part of the brake pressure I want to talk about, and I noticed it in the video that you just posted, Kyle, with Sarah, and what she was using brake pressure to get that little pop on launch. Can you talk a little bit about that? Just when you're that immediate takeoff time. And there's
what most people do too, they put too much brake too soon before they have speed. I tell them power. And when I say power, that's that you got to hit it and you got to start accelerating. And if you don't, the wing's going to stay slow. And then if you start putting some pressure on there, it's going to fall down usually. But if you hit the power and speed the wing along, then when you, again, if you let it get fast, then add pressure, you've got something to work with. When, if you're choking it out, too much brake right after the inflation it's going to stall the wing.
Yeah.
But if you get it up and accelerate the wing, whether it be legs or motor running down a hill, torpedo run, that's what accelerates it. Then when you hit brakes, it gives you that lift and you come up and you're gone. But it's important to get the timing right. That's what part of the learning curve is to develop the proper timing. The inflation, you squeeze the throttle, you don't get thrust in, you get it a second and a half later. But if your wing has come up and stopped coming up, and then it starts to fall back down and you squeeze the throttle then, and then pull the brakes a little bit, well, about the time the thrust hits you, the wing's already fallen down at that point. So it's a very delicate timing. I mean, within 2 seconds, if you don't time it within those 2 seconds, you don't get it usually. Having some wind in your face is a good crutch, but some of the videos that we were taking with Sarah in particular were on like low and no wind nights. She was doing launches when we had that 4 or 5 miles an hour. That was kind of the crutch. And that's why you want to learn in a little bit of wind. But then when it dropped down, she started having difficulties. And that I find that a lot of students do. And there's good reason. Zero wind launches or low wind launches are very difficult things. You have to do everything exactly right and perfect to make a successful launch. If you delay just a second or two, it's too much sometimes, especially in those conditions. But, that comes with experience and, confidence. And as she made her flights, again, I didn't record the last few, I don't think. She was just knocking them out there at the end. Did some reverses, I think, her last day. It was blowing good. Just a fun time. But a lot of students have done well, man. I've had a bunch of good students come through the school. And most people do their own, they come at their own pace. I don't pressure anybody to do better than anybody else or anything like that. So
yeah,
I've staggered the students as well so that they're coming in and leaving at different times. So everybody's kind of in a different progression, and they're not all needing the same things. So
yeah, I like the fact that people are not afraid to go to you because they've already gone through school. And there's kind of a stigma to people that say, well, I did 2 weeks at this school and that was it. And then, they don't feel like they're ready to actually get that rating or to be that pilot.
Some people aren't ready, they're still needing to practice them ground handling at 2 weeks. They're not had enough practice in. You can be practiced enough to do some simple flights and launches and landings, but once the wind starts blowing and you don't have that ground handling down, you're in trouble. Yeah. So again, just because we train for what's going on and what it looks like. And I tell them, there's no or low wind. It's the most difficult conditions there are. You're welcome to come try it. I recommend you do. I'll talk you through it. And, they realize just how hard it is. And most of them are like, then we'll come back with some wind blowing. I didn't like the turbulence, but I don't mind it now. So, with wind comes turbulence. So you don't get that super buttery air, but the launches are more difficult.
I've got, it's an interesting place where I'm at because I've gone and got training basically 2 days. And my second time I went with Chris Dewey and we, there's no video coming because I was really frustrated and all my bad habits were taking over my launches. And it was a nil win situation. It was uphill. It was a really weird situation. Yeah. Anyways, I had a really hard time, and the biggest problem that I had with the nil win launch was that you can't feel the glider at all. There's nothing
not
there.
Till you're sprinting. You got to be sprinting before you can feel it.
Yeah, and even then, forward launch, I can't feel where my glider's at.
I look off to the side. I look at one side of mine and watch it raise up. It's a weird feeling at first, but you start to understand exactly what you're seeing. Right. And you make a visual reference as to where that wing's at on your left horizon. At least it's my left. I always look left. And I can I can tell if it's leaning left or right by how high it is on my horizon. And so I can tell if I need to make a side step. And once I step, I look where I'm going and just accelerate. And I get most of them these days, but Neil wins hard. It always will be. You gotta give maximum effort and perfect technique. And it's you'll have a successful launch. I wouldn't call it easy. You have to work hard for it, but there's a way to work less hard than some people. So yeah.
I mean, there's no excuses for me. I've got plenty of free flight, and I got some
but you're not
training
used to the motor, man. That thrust is another tool that you can use, and
yeah,
that's the new thing. You gotta use that thrust to build your speed. You don't have a hill to run down or wind blowing up.
It's handy when you got the weight on your back.
It was a 185 too, Moster.
Yeah, that'll do it. You still got to do good technique though. It doesn't matter what's back there. You got to time it, hammer it, build speed, add some pressure, but you can't add the pressure too early. And a lot of it depends on the wing too. Some wings are real, I call them doggy, sluggish. It makes them pretty safe, but they don't want to come up real easy in the wind and no wind. They want to fall back. And so if you had any break before you got the speed on it, it falls. And there's almost no recovering some of those wings. And I like the ones that are more like B-class wings because of that. They're going to come up over your head and have that little bit of performance. Again, it puts them in that next less passive safety category, but that little bit of performance is enough to make and break a low wind launch for some people.
Yep.
Because it wants to come up, it wants to fly. It gives you that little bit of performance increase. And by doing that, it's the difference between a not successful attempt and a successful attempt if you put the same technique on it. So that's what I've noticed. And you're not giving up a lot of passive safety. Again, the passive safety is really only for the brand new guys. Once you start exploring what a wing can do, once you learn your basics, how to turn, fly, land, steer. I mean, stepping up is not that big of a thing. Now stepping up too quick, too much, and not knowing enough is dangerous, of course.
Right.
But starting on a B is not anything outside of the realm of safety. So that's what I've been recommending, and I've been having good results with that.
Racing with paramotors in the comments asked about talking about pumping the brakes, and this is in my opinion, one of the things. You could talk about pumping the brakes, flapping the brakes, whatever you want to call it.
Is that what he's referring to? I mean, you can pump the brakes and stop a surge, but flapping is a different technique that some people use to come in and do like a steep descent. Like it's a descending technique, usually to top land in a tight spot.
Right.
You pull the wing almost to stall and then let it up, and then almost to stall and let it up. And a good flap looks like that. Like the wing starts to peel back and then you come off of it and then pull it back again. And it's a delicate, I've seen people stall them doing it too deep for too long and fall back into the trees. They don't let it out enough to get out ahead of them. And if your wing's out of trim and it goes parachutal, that's what happened to Powell Tackett's. He was doing a top land and probably doing a deep flap, and his wing had sours on it and apparently was out of trim. And he went parachutal as he was doing the same thing that he had been doing for months or years. Yep. And he smacked into the mountain and got hurt. It was a minor thing. He was hospital a day or two. They let him go, said take a week off, that sort of thing.
At a comp, and then he still went back and flew again.
Oh, I know. He's got the sickness too. He's for sure got it.
Josh Bowden is here from Nebraska PPG.
Hey.
I like Josh. He's a fun guy.
Oh, you don't like us boys from Nebraska.
Come on now.
I've been trying to get Josh on here. He's been so busy.
Oh, wait, I owe you $2 now, don't I?
I think that's the jar. I think that's the jar one.
I just dang that bell twice in a row, didn't I?
Yeah.
Ching.
Take it out of my Patreon.
Yeah, you're a paying customer.
I pay ahead. So I can curse and sleep in Robert's spare room.
That's right. Are you coming, by the way? Did you book your flights yet?
I haven't yet. I'm still scheduling. Golly.
Yeah. When did we do it?
To even plan anything.
Was it April?
March.
I can't remember.
End of March.
Josh is supposed to come out here too.
I was thinking about being there sometime before or after Salton Sea.
Oh, I don't know if that's going on. Anthony, is that going on right now?
Yeah, I think it's
They got a lot of winds going on. It's pretty windy.
They got this
It's supposed to be there, right?
70-mile-an-hour Santa Ana winds right now.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's coming from the desert inland, right? Or
That's
out to the sea.
That's why so many people are watching the show tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, heck.
Hey, there's a member in the chat, Jim CR120.
Yeah.
He wanted me to remind you of the inflation on our cuss jar. It's not $2, it's 20, but it's
$10 a cuss word. That's right.
Yeah.
So
sorry,
we've got
Kyle.
when
It's okay.
I do want to touch on this.
I got two jobs.
The brake situation, and I'm almost missed this because I wanted to mention this, and Racing with Paramotors is the one that brought this question up. When you come in flapping, and this is what I learned this from a guy that very respected in the sport. He said, when you have to flap to come into the land, it's usually because you messed up somewhere in your approach. If you did it right, you can do it without flapping. Now, there's exceptions to that.
I prefer no flapping, but yeah, flapping's like a last-ditch effort to touch down on the ledge, you know?
Right.
Yeah, but it looks cooler.
The thought was, or the thought is, if you could picture a paraglider, I wish we need to get a little paraglider guy. When you hit the brakes, the wing falls back a little bit, and then you fall under it, and then you're doing this motion as you're flapping down, right? You obviously go too far, you're going to stall. If you don't have any wind coming up the face of the hill, or if you don't have any wind where you're coming into land, it's probably going to be, you're going to know what it is. So it obviously,
you don't need to be top landing in zero wind anyway, Robert.
Yeah. Don't try that.
Yeah.
You can do it.
Yeah.
But I full stalled at about 15 feet. There's a video on YouTube if you want to go look for it. And landed on my back
sore
hard.
for a day or two, didn't it?
Did. Woke me up,
Yep.
man. And it was because I was too deep in the brakes and I was flapping.
Here's a question for you, Kyle. How often has this happened where when you go to take off, you run, let's say, dead ahead into the wind, and you're encountering lift from a thermal, and then you hit a band of sink right after? How often has that happened?
To me?
Yeah.
I think it happened once, and then I learned not to do that anymore. Like I time the cycle so that I launch into what I want. Yesterday, I had to kind of pick in between because there were glider planes doing aero tows at the airport I was at, and they were doing reps. They were building numbers. So it was like tow one, release it, tow one, release it, tow one, release it. And I just had to sort of time my launch in between when they took off. I got out of there, out from under them. And I talked to them and we coordinated, but I couldn't really pick my cycle. I just took off into something and then found it after I took off. But yeah, you don't want to do that. If you're taking off in the center of the gust, you got to expect that it's going to dump you on the other side. And that's whether you're landing or taking off. If you're low to the ground, that's a dangerous place to be, and you have to stay ready for it.
Okay, so flapping coming into land is different than giving your brakes a pump when you're launching with a paramotor. Okay, and this happens to me at Blossom too. When I'm launching, I can actually, as I'm launched and I've already got some ground speed, I can use the brakes to actually pop myself up just a little bit. And if I'm coming in and I think I'm gonna hit bottom and I'm already in my harness, which I shouldn't be getting in the harness too early. That's a lesson in itself. Keep your wheels down. You can actually use the brakes to pop yourself back up, but that has everything to do with your speed. Same thing with paramotoring. I assume you got to have some speed built up already before you can do that. I've watched
the
Tucker do
gliders
it.
fly the same, Robert. They don't fly any different. You just got that thrust factor so that when you do come off of them, you accelerate. You don't have to use altitude to get your speed back. You can get it level across the ground or near the ground. If you go too deep in the brakes and it starts to come down, the worst thing to do is to dump the power and stop. Then the glider shoots past you, you face plant. Hold the brakes deep and squeeze the power and just start running as you ease up on the brakes. And then you'll get speed again, but you never stop kiting the wing. If something's going foul with it, and you've got speed on it, you can get it corrected before you go full tilt.
Yeah.
And again, if you go deep in the brakes and notice that you're sinking out, you're in that, because you'll mush out before you actually stall it. You'll hit the pump and you'll go up. But if you start coming back down, that's when you want to ease up on it and get ready to run again. You don't want to dump them like when you're, a foot off the ground, because then the glider shoots over you and you're already running fast. That's a recipe for a face plant. You hold the brakes and then you build speed by slowly letting them off while giving it thrust until you're fast enough again that you can try another brake jab and get on. If you get off the ground, ease off, and then you're climbing, and you're usually clear by then. So that's how it's supposed to be done, technically speaking.
We're at 7 o'clock. We're going to do the giveaway, the big PPG smoke.com giveaway. If you want to get in this contest, by the way, you can go to paraglidingtalk.com/contest. The winner, Bob Porterfield. Congratulations. You are the winner. Chicken dinner. Bob Porterfield, congratulations. Is that POPPG or PPG Bob Father? Porterfield? Is that his last name?
I think so.
Bob.
Yeah.
I met
He's in the
Bob
chat and
at
everything.
Blossom, on top of Blossom.
Congratulations, Bob. You are the winner. I'm going to send you an email with the details of your winnings.
I never met him, but I think that is his name.
We'll find out soon enough.
He's down here in
because
San
he's the
Diego,
winner.
Robert.
He's not?
No, he's down here in San Diego.
Oh, yeah, I knew that. Yes, sir. Oh, there he is. He's in the chat. Congratulations.
Heck yeah.
Winner, chicken dinner. I'll be sending you an email with those details. Josh Bowden. Where have you been all my life?
Hey, right here.
How's things going over there, man?
Rainy, cold, fall hit, and we're like in a freezing, already getting 34 degree temperatures.
Oh, my word.
Yeah, it should go back to 60s next week. It should be good.
They're talking 40s here is coming Saturday. I guess what you're getting is headed my way.
You're 12 hours south of me, too. That's crap.
Yep.
12 hours south.
That makes training tough.
Yeah, but then you can come on paraglidingtalk.com.
Right, exactly. That's what
It was a pleasant 80 degrees this evening for my evening flight. I took off out of the park after work and just went up and got parked and then came in and landed. But, yeah.
Wait, you flew today?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I had to bring it to work with me, so because I knew I wouldn't have any time to get home and get ready. Then you're out of time. So this time of the year, I carry it to work. I just go straight from work to the closest place.
We haven't even had the time change yet. That's like a funeral for paragliding here.
It totally is.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do something extra special for the show.
2-hour shows during the winter.
Oh gosh, something, bro. Something, man.
Gumbo season, man. There's good things too.
Well,
it ain't all bad.
I can't talk because last year I think I flew all the way through. Like there was always at least 1 or 2 flying days. So, but for you guys, you're gonna have to just
during
come out
daylight
here.
savings.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sad. San Diego. It's
it doesn't
12
doesn't
degrees
stop us.
here. Sun's down at 4 o'clock.
Ugh.
I wish I was a bear so I could climb in a hole for the winter.
No kidding. But that is when the show does the best, I think.
Yeah.
Most people are watching.
Everybody's got the sickness bad.
Yeah. Yes.
I try to get it in whenever I can, man. Sometimes it's just squeezing one in before supper, but it's still a flight.
Yep. Well,
That's
we're going to
a
go
landing I didn't have before that.
We're going to go to the after show. I do want to say I really appreciate everybody that has been a part of the show. We're creeping up on 2 years having this show, episode 91. Pretty wild. So I appreciate everybody, and I appreciate everybody who's investing in the show and Patreon, PayPal, and all the sponsors of the show. You guys are awesome. And so we're going to go to the post show. If you want to be a part of the after show, if you want to join us, you can message me in the chat if you're a Patreon, and I'll send you an invite, and you can join us tonight and hang out on the after show. Look, it's already getting out of control. Got kids in the background. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. And if I don't see you in the air, I'll see you on the air. Have a good night. Hey, Kyle, thanks, man. I appreciate you coming on last minute. Josh, thank you.
Hey, anytime, man. I enjoyed it.
Don't go anywhere. We're going to go to the